Hey everybody, welcome back to the K2N Online Paddle School. We're back here on YouTube, and this week we have another episode of the K2N vlog. This week we're talking about how your technique showcases your skill level, especially in long distance racing. And at the end we'll have a full recap of the race using the footage. We do have some aerial drone footage that I was able to get from a local photographer. Right now in Florida, it is 39 degrees outside as I'm filming this, and I have a lesson with some people from Kansas City, Kansas. And so I have to go out there. The feel like temperature is in the 30s, so it's kind of difficult for us here in Florida to go out on the water when it's near freezing. I know many paddlers are far enough north where it's like 0 or below 0, so 30 sounds like summertime. One of the issues is I don't own pants or shoes, right? So having the proper equipment to go out in these temperatures is not something that I actually own, so I just have to like layer up pajama pants until the risk of frostbite has reduced itself. So that being said, it has been like a miserably cold winter here in Florida between the wind, chill, and the overall air temperature. One of the things that I have now is this Heat 32 gear. I get it on Amazon. They're like $8 for the shirt and the leggings, and it goes a really long way in having this base layer when you do load up your clothes on the top of it. I've invested in waterproof socks as well, which is like the highest level of luxury that I've ever bestowed upon myself. Another product from Amazon that's like $15 a unit. I am slowly gaining up the arsenal of cold weather gear, and it will look incredibly silly in my closet when the feel like temperature is 109 degrees in the next 4 months. All right, so I'm done with the lamenting. So we'll get into your technique being a great showcase, especially in long distance racing. Sprint racing has the luxury of ending quickly. You have a format that's not very long, and losing in sprint racing, it's a totally different numbers equation, right? If you're racing for 200 meters and you lose by 1 second, it doesn't sound like a lot. It doesn't feel like a lot. It doesn't look like a lot. But in the realm of that distance and its racing format, that is an eternity, right? Making up 1 or 2 seconds over such a very short distance is incredibly difficult. It allows paddlers this feeling that they're close, right? Like, I am so close to catching this person because I'm only 5 seconds behind them, right? But when you look at the miles per hour difference and the wattage output necessary to go that extra 5 seconds in a minute or two, now you can see how far apart these paddlers actually are. But long distance racing does not have this luxury, right? Because there's so much time to separate from the other paddlers, right? You can have one paddler that is only very slightly slower than another and be 3 or 4 or 5 minutes behind them. In the context of long distance racing, this means that you can't even see the next person that's in front of you because they're so far ahead. When you look at the numbers, they're only going a few seconds per mile faster, but over the longer duration, right? You create this incredible separation. So when you get done long distance racing, especially if you're new to it, it's a real kick to the teeth, right? Because you get done and it's just like, holy crap, like that guy is on land, done, dressed in new clothes, his boat's already put away, and he's just hanging out, right? He's been done for so long, and it's just one of those things where, how do I close the gap on a person like that? And this is where technique comes in, right? You are taking thousands of strokes. You have thousands of opportunities to create separation from another paddler. So every little inefficiency that you have in your movement, you get punished for by a paddler that does not have this error in their range of motion. Every single stroke that they take, they go faster and they use less energy. It's just a battle you cannot win. And this is one of the things I like about long distance racing is you can't muscle it, you can't fake it, and you can't cheat it, right? You have to have good movement. You have to have good fitness, but to the point where you are unable to overcome the technique by purely being stronger or being in better shape than someone. It can help. And it can be the difference in very close proximity moments, but it is not the difference in making up 10 minutes on the next boat, right? There is not a fitness thing that you can do to go from being in good shape to being in ultimate super shape, because the thing that you're carrying is bad technique. If you can fix the technique, now you go faster using less energy, and you can use your current fitness level to get much more out of it, right? This is where the efficiency is revealing itself. And paddlers always wonder, like, what is the difference? Like, why can't I keep up with this person, right? And it's not one big thing. It never is. It's the accumulation of a lot of little things. And when you put all these little things together, then you have a big result, right? So like, oh man, when I take a paddle stroke, I get 2 more feet than the next person, right? Is it because I do one thing very well? No, it's because of the little things where I get an inch here and a 1/4 inch here and a 1/2 inch here, and it just starts bulking up and adding up. And this is where being technical is so important, right? We talk about this on the online school all the time. Keeping track of where every joint is at, when it's moving, how it's wielding your tool, how you're in the boat itself, how comfortable you feel with your movement, all of these things add up, and it's very complex trying to keep track of all of them while you're racing and taking a stroke every second or half second. Using your legs properly, moving your hips properly, and making sure you're turning your shoulders. Are you creating positive blade angle? What is your entry point? How long is the stroke? What is your overall stroke rate? How much are you pushing with your top hand? How much are you pushing with your bottom hand? All of these things, again, they add up, and that's just a short list. I could just go on and name 100 little factors. When paddlers are not technically efficient, they don't think about some of these ideas, or they don't have them refined at all. And so I'm just at the skill level in Florida where I have created this separation amongst a number of paddlers, right? And there are people that are around that will defeat me in OC1, right? Again, I'm not the world champion. I'm not the best, right? And there are people that will showcase their skills beyond what I can physically do. For myself as a coach, knowing that I'm not at this highest pinnacle, if I do create this separation amongst other paddlers, I can watch them and immediately pick up. They're not doing this, they're not doing that, they're not doing this. They physically cannot catch up to me. I guess that's like the coaching mindset where it's always on, right? Like you're looking at people and it's like Neo seeing the Matrix, right? Where you see the ones and zeros kind of floating around. It's like, oh man, if they just fix this, this, and this, they'd go super fast. And with coaching psychology and working with people directly, we've talked about this before, right? You can't just give them the information because they're not ready for it. It's right before a race or it's after a race. They may not think that you know what you're talking about. They may not be ready to go through their movement. They may think that they have perfect technique, right? So it's very frustrating to watch somebody have so many inefficiencies and not be able to just share something with them to help them out. The way the psychology works is that person has to make it up in their mind to come to you. That way they're more receptive to these ideas. That's one of the fun parts about these races, is being able to showcase my skill level and putting these ideas into practice, and at the end having people say, wow, like that's amazing, you look effortless, how can I be like that? And then using that as a connection to build rapport. And that's the way that I see it, right? I don't like the feast or famine where like I'm gonna keep all this technique for myself so nobody can beat me, so I can go to a small race and get first place, right? Like that's not very interesting to me. I would be more encouraged if everybody else had the same exact tools that I have at my disposal and were beating me at events like this. Losing races is a motivation for myself to go back to the drawing board, to figure out what I need to do to keep improving and keep moving forward, right? It's very easy to get complacent because you win by a large distance. If there's anything that I can impart, it's to always be scrutinizing of your movement, right? The moment you get complacent, you stop climbing the ladder, right? And you may think that you're at the top of the ladder, right? You have to keep striving for the next rung of the ladder and to keep climbing. If you're like, oh man, I have mastered paddling and I don't need to advance anymore and I figured it out, right? There's another rung right there that you willingly cannot reach for. And until you make up your mind to do so, you can't keep climbing. And there's other people that are around you that are unhindered by these ideas that just rocket up these ladders. Don't stop your advancement, right? Always look at what you're doing. How can I do it better? What are other ideas I can implement in? If you think you're doing it right, you should really think about it and compare it to somebody else and watch it side by side with footage. And you can see that there are always going to be things that you can improve on. And if you're interested in doing all that stuff and you don't have the capabilities, you are watching a platform that is designed to help you with that, right? So you can always reach out and I can be the person that helps you push into that next step. Thank you guys so much. This week's race footage is really exciting. I was right side by side with a lot of surf skis going through the race course. I was actually next to Amy Keener, who we've done a podcast episode with. If you haven't watched that, you should. That is one of our fastest racers in women's surf ski in the southeast region, probably the east side of America. She's definitely on the short list of fastest surf ski ladies in the USA currently. Amy and I have gone back and forth where I'm in the OC1 and she's in the surf ski for like years now, and she's beat me a few times and I have a few wins over her, right? So I knew going into the race that it would be a lot of fun battling out with her. She has a new boat currently and she was potentially gonna go faster because of the equipment change. So I hope you guys enjoyed that footage and commentary. If there are any topics that you would like to see discussed in greater detail, if you want to tell me that I'm a sissy and 32-degree weather is, you know, what you bathe in, feel free to leave a comment below. Thank you all so much for the support, and we'll see you all next week for our next K2N vlog episode. All right, everybody, we are in Melbourne. The town is Palm Bay in Florida here, and we're paddling with Paddling Paradise. My buddy Danny in the yellow surf ski. He's like, dude, we're gonna be on YouTube. And I'm like, well, you're only gonna be on there for a minute, because when we start, I'm not gonna be able to see you for long. So there's Danny in the Vega. The start line, a little chaotic, and sometimes, you know, you gotta take advantage of the chaos and just kind of push yourself to the front. And we had a lead surf ski out there, the white Fen with eaves. And I just lined up right behind him, and I figured I wasn't cheating if he was the first boat. So Danny in the surf ski super fast, leaves immediately. I'm able to hit like 9 miles an hour here. There's an OC2 men's boat behind me and an OC1, Mark from Naples, well, near Naples, paddling. You can see he's got the blue AMA. I'm in the second lead boat here. This aerial shot is really cool. This is from Campbell, photographer for Paddling Paradise sometimes. Yep, going under the bridge here. I really like this shot because Danny's in the front, I'm in second right now, and looking behind as all of the racers start to come out is pretty neat. You can see the entire cavalry is coming, and you know, I just started a little bit ahead of everybody, so I think that's one of the reasons that I look so far ahead immediately off the start line. But yeah, just capitalizing on, you know, positioning. Another aerial shot. This is coming out of the bridge area. It rained a little bit right before the race started, so that's why like the GoPro has some water on the lens, so it looks like kind of dreamy or, you know, blurry, but it kind of adds to the atmosphere that we're paddling in. It's warm. It was like 70 degrees, which is hot right now for Florida. So this is the chase pack. Chase and Chad and Flavio all coming up. So this is like a half mile in or so, and they've just started further back, and so it just took them a minute to go. I'm really pushing, and I think they immediately started pacing off the start line. We have Bruce behind me in the surf ski. I thought that was Amy for a little while as they were coming up on me, because they both have pink nose boats right now. They're the same model, they're just very slightly different. But there's this V formation here, and I'm pushing in behind Jason, and the amount of weight that's pushed off here is tremendous. And I'm like, oh, this is gonna work out perfect. And you can see that they immediately split. Chad on the left and Flavio on the right go in different directions. So that V wash ends up dissipating. And I'm right behind Jason, who doesn't make enough weight to pull my outrigger canoe. So from this point, I'm stranded by myself for a little bit, but I'm in the lead of the canoes. The 4 kayaks end up going off. My wife is where the arrow is at with the yellow AMA, and she ended up beating a few guys, which is always fun in the outrigger canoe. We were expecting this course to be a lot choppier, and it ended up being very flat. The wind forecast kept changing, and the choice of course ended up being one that was conducive to blocking the wind. So Bruce is on one side, you can see Amy is on the other side. She's closer to the houses and whatnot. She begins catching up, and I start kind of making my way over, and I have to make a decision that like I'm gonna draft one of these people, and I'm not exactly sure which way I'm gonna go, because Bruce is really hitting it here, and I decide based on past races and stuff that you know, sticking with Amy is the easy choice. Mark is in the OC1 right there, so he's not very far back. This is probably only about a mile or a mile and a half in. I'm able to start drafting with Amy, which is a huge advantage, and I'm in pretty good long distance shape right now, so a lot of my speeds can be very consistent from the first mile all the way to the end. So you know, just the training mileage and intensity and stuff just kind of helps with that consistency on the race course. Here's an overhead shot, so this is probably about 2 miles in. We have some of the racers in the back. I think there's a kayak all the way in the back. So the 4 kayaks are way ahead, right? So the really fast guys are not in shot here. And then the 3 boats that are in the lead here, that's me in the middle of Bruce and Amy. And then the next boat back by itself is Mark, right? So you can start to see some of the separation. Again, this is probably under 2 miles into the race, and you can see how far away a lot of these paddlers begin to get. And we got 8 more miles. This course is 10 miles, 16 kilometers long. And so there is a lot of opportunity to continue pushing this lead. Bruce ends up falling off, and I just kind of stick behind Amy here. The weight, or the weight that is displaced from the boat, from her lead boat, comes off in a V, and I place my hull on that V to give me a little push forward. One of the other things going on is we're going upwind, and surf skis are faster upwind. 2 blades, no AMA, so the higher stroke rate and less drag allows them to cruise at this higher speed, and the outrigger canoe is more affected by upwind. The benefit though is on the tailwind, the outrigger canoe gets more per stroke, right? So right now I'm really trying to draft as long as I'm allowed to, and allow for, you know, this upwind section to not be so brutal, because that little bit of wake is helping displace the water and help move me forward. So this is a turnaround point. We were pretty confused coming up to it because the lead boat was all over the place and we weren't sure there's multiple islands to go around or that are out there. And so we ended up going around the correct one. The lead boats went super far around the island because there's various sandbars. We ended up cutting it close and had enough water to go around, no issues. So this is now the tailwind, and I can immediately feel that I can drop my stroke rate and I'm able to go a little bit faster than I was going upwind. So my exertion levels are dropping a lot on this tailwind. I know the surf ski doesn't quite get the same benefit because it doesn't have the AMA and it doesn't you know, have that extra, you know, mass that's being pushed by the wind. So it's usually a tactic that I have very on the forefront of my mind, is that I'm strongest on the tailwind sections in the outrigger canoe, and you always want to use that to your advantage. So going into conserving mode here and you know, just trying to pace towards the end, there's boat weight, and I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna surf it and I'm gonna get ahead, and my camera is right about to die. So if I push ahead here, I can get ahead of Amy, and when I stop paddling, I can turn on my rear camera, and immediately my front camera died after that. So you can see catching that wake and giving that little push gave me a huge separation, but we're still 3 or 4 miles from the finish, right? So there's no reason to book it now. So she kind of gets a little more urgency and jumps back to the front here. And again, I'm trying to conserve as much energy as I can, hold good position, and try to, you know, throw the dice on the last mile as we get closer to that. And like I said, I know conserving energy, I know that I have a lot of training under my belt, and I have the slight advantage having the tailwind this whole way, right? So things are lining up to give a really good last mile push for one of us to cross the finish line first. So as we're going through, she's swapping with the draft position with me from front to back here. And coming through, so we're getting closer and closer to the finish line. A lot of paddlers in Florida, because of the light, and we've had some intense winds because of the cold fronts that have been coming through, it's been hard for people to get out and get consistent mileage, and Amy is one of them. So she's not able to paddle as much as I have. So in this final mile or so, again, you know, all the time on the water and all that training volume is starting to pay off here because I can hit it, and she's just not able to match it at this event. So here I do a power 20 or a power 40, I can't remember, and I'm gonna look over my left shoulder and I'm gonna realize that I created separation right there, and I'm like, well, it's go time. So now that they're off of the draft that I'm creating off the back, I can increase my stroke rate and just go for it. This is under a mile left to the finish line. If I was in a pinch or in second place, I would have gone under that dock near land to cut this corner, right? But because I'm in the lead, you know, I don't need to risk damaging the boat or running into super shallow water to maintain the same position that I'm in, right? So I end up taking the more conservative route, going around the outside of the docks. Coming up, there are more docks, and this is all a big left turn with land, and it'd be shorter to cut it closer to the inside. So I'm looking at these docks and I'm like, man, I should go under them and just secure the wind, and I end up going wide around all of them. But again, if I was chasing a boat that was just a little ahead of me, I would have rolled those dice and see if I could close the gap on them by cutting the corner just a little bit. And that's the fun part about course racing, is like you have some decisions to make, right? There's all kinds of environments, like catching that wake earlier, all these docks, when to push, so you can use your environment, your strategy, and put all these pieces together to get a good performance in. My stroke rate climbs to about 70 here. We're going into what feels like the current, and it's pretty slow. The boat is not gliding a lot, so I want to turn over and just maintain that pace. I'm still getting pretty good distance per stroke, and it just visually, it's tough keeping up with somebody that looks like they're moving so fast, because it's like, oh, they're not getting tired and I'm getting tired, and it's like a psychological thing, right? So even if you're not going faster, sometimes paddling faster will whip people out. So in this case, you know, I have the fitness to you know, up the stroke rate, up the speed, and just kind of hold it the whole way. But yeah, this is 70 strokes per minute. It's funny, the entire last mile was averaging 70, and it looks smooth, right? You can see the shoulders moving and all that. It doesn't look like it's a super high rate, but yep, it's more than 1 per second. So this is coming into the finish line here. The finish line is an orange buoy up by land. We ended up getting, or I ended up getting 10.1 miles, which would be 16.3 kilometers approximately. So that is the race. I hope you guys found that footage fun. Again, sorry about all the rain and water, and even here I flicked water on the rear camera from paddling and just exiting with a lot of urgency. If you guys have any questions or any things that you would want to share about the race or races that you've done recently, or any tactics, or just trying to navigate how to put forth your best performance, feel free to leave a comment or message anytime. Congratulations to all the racers that are found in the video. It's a lot of fun editing this and racing with everybody, and I find a lot of joy in it. Amy ends up just a little bit behind. You're gonna see the finish results here in a second on this screen. So thank you guys so much, and we'll see you all next week for another episode of the K2N vlog.